Welcome to the Attack Direct YouTube channel. This is the Sammy Go Blue Show. This is your host, Sammy Go Blue. We have a very special guest tonight, former University of Michigan basketball player, Gavin Groninger. But before we get into the conversation with him, I'd like to make a few announcements. If you haven't already, I'm going to pause. That gives you an opportunity to hit the subscribe button. Please do. It helps out grow our YouTube channel. Also, any local businesses that are looking for some advertisement, we are looking for sponsorships. So definitely reach out to us. But with that said, let's get into this. Okay, Gavin, we
How you
have
doing?
good. We have Gavin Groninger, played for the University of Michigan from 1999 to what, 2003?
2003. Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
4 years.
So, Gavin, before we get into anything, let's kind of like set the tone here. Fall of 1997, Steve Fisher gets fired.
Yep.
Um, Brian Ellerby takes the helm. I
hmm
believe I believe they had a nice season that year. I think they lost to UCLA in the second game. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Steve Lavin, he had like a gimmick offense or something and just threw us all off. And that team was a great team. I thought they would go further. They had Gerard Ward, Bullock, Conlon, Trailer, Maceo Baston. But that was kind of the beginning of a very dark cloud that hovered over Michigan. Um, with that said, fall of 1997, Steve Fisher gets fired. Let's fast forward this to fall of 1998. Gavin Groninger is a senior in high school, going into your senior year. There's some decisions that have to be made. How does Michigan get in the mix here?
Yeah, they came in relatively late with one of the assistant coaches, Scott Trost, saw me play, and Scott's been a great coach forever. He's still coaching in Illinois, college in Illinois, but he got involved, and it was kind of coming down to some Big Ten schools for me. IU, Michigan State, Michigan were probably my top ones, and Purdue, those four. Um, and through process of elimination, probably I knew that Coach Knight was on his zero tolerance rule by then,
Right.
so
Yeah,
I
that was
figured he
about to blow
probably,
up.
yeah, he probably wouldn't still be there. One of the earlier teams on me in high school was Michigan State, but then towards the end they started recruiting Jason Richardson, whose son's playing for him now.
Right.
So they were kind of waiting on his decision before it got to me. So that they kind of eliminated themselves. Um, Coach Katie is the one coach that's funny, besides Coach Izzo, I guess. But Coach Katie was the one coach that told me from Purdue that said I probably won't be here all 4 years. Well, he was the one that ended up being there actually all 4 years. So yeah,
That's
so then
interesting.
Michigan had a really strong recruiting class. It was headed by obviously Jamal Crawford, who multiple time six-man player of the year in the NBA. And then we had a really good point guard that actually won Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Kevin Gaines.
7 games.
Yes, Lavelle Blanchard was a local guy, so
Yeah. I think it
so
was
I was
Mr.
kind of the
Basketball.
yeah, he was Michigan Mr. Basketball, and a really good 4 year player at Michigan during those times. So it was a recruiting class. It was they signed Brian Ellerby to a deal, so he was no longer the interim coach. So those things, I think we were a top five recruiting class.
Yeah, you guys were.
Obviously, yeah, with those guys headlining. So
Yeah,
I
I
knew
mean,
it'd be
you
a
had
good
Kevin Gaines and Lavelle and Jamal were the headliners
yes,
of
for
that
sure,
recruiting class.
for sure.
I
And
followed.
the plan always was those guys. We'd have a three guard rotation. So I was the shooter that would come in, and those guys would start the game off. Jamal, who's really probably more of a shooting guard or a point guard, played shooting guard. Kevin Gaines was a point guard, and it was. I mean, those two were phenomenal. I just got to stand in the corner and hit open shots my freshman year.
Correct. Wow. So your freshman year comes along, the cloud is starting, but you guys have some success. Like we talked, like we cited before. I happen to, the beauty about Michigan basketball, even to like today, um, you can always get a ticket. You know,
Right.
you
Yeah.
can always like, and at that time, I think I scored like $10 tickets
There
to
you go.
the Michigan game.
Yeah.
And you guys, I even invited some friends. I'm like, come on, you guys need to check this game out. It's only $15. Let's check it out. So we went to that game. And it was, it was a great game. It gave us some hope.
It was
Like,
phenomenal. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like,
The two freshmen in my class, Kevin Gaines, and obviously that was Jamal Crawford's breakout game. We knew after that we probably wouldn't be seeing too much more of him because he always had that drive and demeanor to just that was his goal day
I
one. He wanted
mean,
to go to
was
the
it
NBA.
obvious like first day? Like this?
Yeah, yes. So Jamal, I don't know if you how much you know about Jamal. I mean, you're my age, so you probably know more. But man, younger kids they need to watch highlights of this guy.
Oh yeah,
Um, he's a bit of a Paul Bunyan character because even out west where he's from, his summer league games,
Piano
like
Rainier.
you just hear
Right.
all the crazy things, and I've got my own stories firsthand experience. And I'll start off with the first one. It's a good one. You'll like it. And then maybe I'll save some for later. But four of us freshmen, we had five total, and four of us we came in early. They had some summer program where you could get a few credits and go early, play pickup with the guys, get in on some of the workouts. And so we had been there 2 or 3 weeks, and you go in, play pickup. You got five guys and five guys. You lose, you sit. The five that win stay. Um, and we were in the middle of playing. It was 2 weeks later, and Jamal Crawford was finally coming in from Washington State. That's where he was
Yeah.
from. So he flies cross country, lands in Detroit um, about 7 o'clock, and then he drives straight over from Detroit and drives straight to our open gym we were having in Chrysler Arena. So he gets out, and we're all playing. We notice him come in. He comes in with Brian Townsend, who's at Kansas now, an assistant there. He comes in with him, who picked him up at the airport. He changes into his basketball stuff, doesn't go anywhere else, just changes into his basketball stuff. Game ends, and he steps on. And the first thing that happens, we start to play. I happen to be on the winning team, so my team was stayed on, and his new team came on. And I was lucky enough wasn't guarding him, but the first thing he did was come off a ball screen on the wing, and a big guy switched up on him. And he took the basketball and he put it between the big guy's legs, and then he brought it back between the big guy's legs and
Wow.
stepped back and hit a three. So
Wow.
like the whole gym just stops and like did
That's
we
like
just see that happen?
legendary. That's like,
But I mean, but the way he handled the basketball and the way he made difficult shots look easy. I mean, it was. There's a couple people that just had that extra in college, if you know what I mean. Like when you're watching a great high school player, they're easy to spot. I mean, you can tell
right.
right away. But to have that separation in college, where somebody's just that much better, you don't see very often. So when you do, it's easy to notice.
Gotcha. So, you must bore your kids with some of these stories. I mean, gee whiz, you can tell a story, right? Boom, about Jamal Crawford. Are they how do they respond to all your stories?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
Because
my
you're in,
kids, my poor kids have heard them plenty of times. But even the high school kids that I coach, it's interesting that they're getting to that age where I mean, LeBron James is their guy, crazy
yeah,
enough
like
as it
Jamal
is,
who?
and right, yeah, they're like, they don't remember those names, and so I have to pull up the highlight videos and show them, and then they're interested in the stories. Um, but yeah, we're just we played there a long time ago.
Right. I mean, and to be honest with you, you were at, you could be walking around a campus and see Tom Brady or David Terrell. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh, when I was in college,
There
for
was a
sure.
lot
Yeah.
going on that and then at that period of time. So who officially like recruited you? Like, obviously there's some limbo with Fisher and Ellerby. Does Ellerby come and make the push for you?
Yeah, well, it was Scott Trost who initially saw me. He was an assistant coach. He coached. I know he coaches now at Elmhurst College in Illinois, but I think that's where he coached before. But so he came over when Ellerby got on staff, and as soon as he saw me, I think Coach Ellerby came a couple weeks later, watched an open gym me play high school basketball, and then after that, it was pretty quick to the scholarship offer, and I think I committed before the season, my senior year of high school. So the basketball season, I was already committed. And Brian Townsend, who's with Kansas now, came and watched a game we played against Ben Davis High School, which is one of the biggest high schools in
Like
Indiana. So
yeah, it's in
yeah,
Indianapolis,
yeah,
right?
yes, yeah,
Right, it's a football school.
yeah. It's just a sports school. I mean, they
It's
got
just a
about six
sports
thousand
school.
kids that go there. Yeah, so they got a lot of
Gotcha.
kids to choose
Gee
from.
whiz.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. So, 1999, you're a freshman at Michigan. Um, Give us some insight on your freshman year. How'd it
Well,
go?
it's the first thing is just how different it is. Obviously, um, the people you work with at Michigan are first class, like the academic advisors, the coaches, the players. We all got along pretty well, and just all the people that work in media. I mean, they're first class people at Michigan. Um, the workload was a bit shocking when you first get there as a freshman because you have workouts in the morning and they usually last 2 to 3 hours. You'll have film session, then you'll eat, then you'll have practice, and then you'll have training table. It's like your whole day is so regimented. I think they do that on purpose. It's so regimented from morning to night that getting used to that was a struggle. I mean, it's just different. And then the other thing was the workouts. I mean, you're one on one, especially lifting weights and the conditioning stuff. You're one on one working with people. And, in high school, you're working with a group of guys and, you can go hard, but it's different than when it's one on one and a person's pushing you to get extra reps in. And,
Yeah,
you just, the first couple of workouts, you feel nauseous. You don't feel like you're going to make it through, but ultimately your body kind of gets used to it.
gotcha. So, um, were your parents happy that you went to Michigan?
Yeah,
And
they were.
the
Yeah.
second question is, when you were done with Michigan, did you feel like, their big marketing campaign is a Michigan difference?
Mhm.
Did you feel that? I mean, the Michigan difference post your days at Michigan?
I think so. I don't know. It's hard to say, pinpoint what that is exactly, but my parents were thrilled when I made my decision. They were happy it wasn't too far away to where they could still get to
Right.
some of the games. Grew up Purdue fans, but it was funny enough. One of the things that made the decision not to go to Purdue was Coach Katie telling me. He said, I probably won't be here for all 4 years. And then I told you, ironically enough, Brian Ellerby was there for 2 years with me,
Right.
and Bobby Knight he left after he was on zero tolerance, and
Yeah, that was
Katie,
crazy.
yeah, Coach Katie was the only one that ended up all 4 years there when I was in college. So, but anyways, so Michigan was the final answer and the choice, and then I can't complain about my experience. Like I said, first class. You're working with people that are first class. You're working with dependable people. And in my experience with Michigan men, like no matter what you did there, um, you knew that the people involved had your back. They were looking out for you, and that goes from everyone from like equipment managers to managers on the basketball team to school counselors and um, tutors, just top to bottom. It was done well.
Well, all I can say is you're in a, special fraternity,
Mm,
being a Michigan man.
yeah,
I got the tattoos. I'm Sammy Go Blue.
right.
At the end of the day, I can tell people my sister graduated from Michigan. They're like, well, you didn't graduate from Michigan. Well, okay. But um the connection you have, the fraternity you have, I feel like you're truly blessed. Because not comes with, the only thing that comes with Michigan for you is your memories, but also the networking. That's gotta have helped you at some point in your life,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
having the Michigan network.
Yeah, and it strikes up conversations because everywhere you go, I mean,
Oh, I
I'm
know.
here I'm here in Florida on spring break with my family, and you just see people with the Block M on, and that's an easy way to start a
Well,
conversation.
exactly. And then,
Yeah,
by the way, I played at Michigan.
yeah. I let my wife and kids do the bragging
Yeah,
rights,
I know,
but
I know.
yeah,
You're humble.
yeah,
But so we're chugging along through your freshman year, and
hmm
I watched you guys. I was, we're the same age. I followed the Fab Five. I followed Michigan basketball. I followed Michigan football. So I'm thinking, okay, we got Michigan State trending up.
yeah,
You guys got a nice recruiting class. You guys are
yeah,
building up, and then the bottom falls out.
yeah,
So,
and that might have started my freshman year, even playing Michigan State. I don't know if you recall that game, uh, that was a brutal defeat by Michigan State, who
oh
ended up
yeah,
winning the national championship. But
yeah.
man, when I'm in the game at the end of the game and the team Cleaves is throwing assists to walk-ons, that was a tough one to
It was
swallow.
hard. I remember watching that game, and it was just hard to watch because um I think Jamal had been suspended like
Yes,
before
yeah,
that. So all the
yeah,
hype to that game was kind of not as high as it was if he would have been playing. And then
yeah. And again, that speaks to it's just the craziness of my freshman year in general.
it,
Just
it really is.
yeah. I mean, we start off hot, and we got Jamal on our team who's different,
Different.
and Kevin Gaines, the point guard, was playing out of his mind, like six assists and 10 points, and he was like a 6'4" point guard who could guard 94 feet and penetrate and kick out and do a lot of good things. But you know, when we went through all that adversity with Jamal, and it's crazy that I told you the Jamal story already, but also I just remember freshman year, like he would look at me and be like, "Yeah," he was like, "You watch this. I'm gonna start wearing a headband, and you're gonna see everybody's gonna start wearing headbands." Like he literally told me this,
I did.
and
I
that
wore one.
trend. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, you remember from our time, like
Yeah.
that trend just started, and to this day, like I think that was Jamal starting that.
Matter of fact, when I started coaching middle school basketball in 2003, uh, we all wore headbands. I made them get
Yeah, there
it.
you go. Yeah. Well, and we all wore him when he got suspended and
Right.
in
Oh,
solidarity, but
right. So,
yeah,
and then the bottom drops out on you guys. And
yeah.
like you said, um, as a fan, as a Michigan fan, it was I wanted it to be over with, but
Mm-hmm.
and in the back of my mind, I knew this was going to be long term. Like
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't going to be an easy fix. The bottom was falling out. NCAA was all over this.
Mm-hmm.
This was not looking good. And eventually, Brian Ellerby's job was sacrificed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so when did he get fired? In your sophomore year?
Yeah, that was my sophomore year. Yes. So coming back, that freshman group that had five was now returning with two. There was myself and
He went to
Lavelle
Houston,
Blanchard. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Haynes went
Kevin
to
Gaines
Houston.
got well. He was there at the start of the year and ended up getting kicked off the team before the season started. And ended up in Houston. I think transferred again from there. But yeah, Jamal. He was Kevin Gaines won Big Ten freshman of the year, 1 year and out, gone. And then Jamal went to the NBA draft. He was gone. Then we had another guy named Leland Anderson who played the least of us. He was
Guido?
yeah, he was yep. So
Guido?
he transferred to Rhode Island. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
ended
I
up
thought
just
he transferred to Providence.
yeah, Providence. You're right. Yeah,
He transferred to
Providence. And
Providence.
he was going to be. It was interesting for a while. He was going to be a professional wrestler. So
Well,
I
he
don't think that
might,
worked
might
out
have
for
been
him.
able to do it, dude. He
Yeah,
was
he's
like
a big dude.
6'8", like stocky
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
So he gets fired.
yeah.
Um,
That was my sophomore year, and we knew it was interesting. We knew we went to the Big Ten tournament in Chicago that year, and we knew going to the Big Ten tournament, like it was just kind of like all the air was out, and the coaches weren't talking to each other, and I think they just kind of knew the writing was on the wall. So, yeah, it was. I think the news broke
you
the night
felt
we
it.
lost
The team
the big.
felt it.
Oh yeah, it was palpable. You could feel it. They were. Yeah, I think they knew the end of the ride was coming, and I think they were feeling the pressure, and um, it was an interesting time for sure.
Gotcha. And then, I don't know, I don't have the timeline, but I know it wasn't shortly after, Mary Sue Coleman, Bill Martin were on ESPN News saying we're doing a 10-year ban, Chris Webber, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
um, but there's a coach has to be hired at this point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A coach has to be hired. I can remember how excited I was when and we talked about this yesterday in our like pre-interview.
Mm-hmm.
How excited I was to hear Rick Pitino's name. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember him coming to campus and if I remember right, was there a rally for him?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's all kinds of yeah. They rolled out the red carpet for him. The students were excited. I mean
Yeah,
that's
the fans
everybody
were
who
excited.
yeah, the fans
The
were
fans
excited.
were
Yeah,
excited
yeah, yeah.
because to me, I'm like, okay, there's finally an end to this, maybe.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
but he turns it down.
yeah,
Um, I can't remember the other candidates. Tommy
yeah.
Amaker takes a job.
Yep.
Pedigree, Coach K
Mm-hmm.
protege.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like when he came through the door? And did he like you know, as you being at that junction in your career, you were probably one of the leaders. Did he
Yes.
look at
Yeah.
you? Did he come to you and say, hey, look for some maybe insight on the team?
Yeah. Actually, it was pretty quick when he got involved. He got a hold of Lavelle and I both being we're going into our junior year that summer, and he put me on a Big Ten foreign tour team. Um, so I went with the Big Ten to Europe and Ireland that summer, and they came to a few
Wow,
practices. We
that's cool.
practiced in Bloomington. That was the hub, and Coach Davis was at IU, and he was every year they would switch it up, and a different coach would take the Big Ten foreign tour team to a different destination. And that year it was IU's turn, so went with Coach Davis and a group of Big Ten players. A lot of fun. But they came to some practices in IU and watched me play and got to know me a little bit. Um, and I think Coach Amaker was more ready for a head coaching position. I think I
Yeah,
think
that was like a natural
the
step for him.
yeah, it was, and he was coming from Rutgers, um, and they had some good years. So I think what it boiled down to at Michigan, it wasn't quite the fit for Coach Amaker, because obviously he's been at Harvard now for forever, and he probably will be there as long as he wants to be.
Um, I concur, but in the end, I think Tommy Amaker, because someone had to do that. Someone had
Hmm.
to get us through that.
Yeah,
And he's not Johnny Orr, he's not Steve Fisher, he's not Coach Beeline, but somebody had to do that. So I'll always
right.
tip my hat to him because he took us through a very
Absolutely. Yeah, there were,
challenging time.
yes, we didn't know what the outcome would be from all the investigations, and that ended up coming down my senior year. And I don't remember. It affected me obviously, so I remember it was my senior year. I don't remember if it lasted after that, but the year after my senior year, that was the tournament ban. So I guess that would have been maybe 1 year tournament ban, because the next year they went to the NIT and won it under Amaker. That was my first year out of college. So, he did accomplish some good things. I think he tried to do things first class. I always felt like that. We were well prepared for our games. I just don't think we quite had the talent yet to win. I mean, it's the Big Ten. It's
It's a Big Ten.
every game is big.
I just remember it took him a minute to get a recruiting class. I think his
Mm.
top recruit was maybe Daniel Horton. Um,
Yes, that he was there my senior year.
and
Yeah.
who's another guy I remember that was? Do you remember Avery Queen?
Hey, oh yes, I remember Avery Queen.
Little
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. He that's the thing. My sophomore through senior year, he played a ton of point guard minutes
He
for us. And
did.
so my freshman year, I've got 6'5" Kevin Gaines driving, I've got Jamal Crawford driving and kicking for threes, and then the next 3 years, I wasn't a guy that could get my own shot, and
Right.
no one was helping off our point guards anymore. So
Gotcha.
it made my life more
Oh,
difficult.
geez.
But yeah, but Avery was there for, I think he was there maybe till through my junior year. So, and then he
Gotcha.
ended up leaving and going to ISU, Indiana Southern University.
Yeah, I just don't. I
Yeah.
remember he was a kid that came out of Kansas. I think a junior college out of Kansas. I
Well,
believe.
yeah, no, he was a freshman, but the
Was
thought
he?
was,
He didn't
yeah,
come.
and
Okay.
he came in my sophomore year, and the thought was he was going to be a backup for Kevin. Like there was no other plan. Like he was a good player, but it was never intended for him to play as many minutes as he ended up playing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. So you ride it out. Um, with Tommy Amaker.
Hmm.
You finish your career at Michigan.
Yep.
How'd you feel at the end of that?
It's weird. It's a weird feeling when I knew I was done playing basketball. I was ready to, move on with my life. And it's funny, you lose a little. I mean, when you play in the Big Ten and you're not playing as much for whatever reason, you start to you don't quite remember how good you are at basketball. It's not until you get out a year or two and you start playing pickup and you're like, oh, I'm better than 90% of the people out here.
Right.
But in college, you're surrounded by guys
Yeah.
that, yeah, are just as big, more
Strong,
athletic,
just as strong, just as fast.
and you just kind of lose sense of, hey, this set of people is not the normal set of people. So, but anyway, so I didn't think about continuing to play overseas. I was just kind of burnt out and knew I wanted to eventually end up getting into. I knew I wanted to be a high school coach. When I got done uh, playing in college, but it is a weird feeling when you're on a team for so many years of your life, so on so many different teams, and you spend more time with your teammates and your coaches than you do your family. Then all of a sudden you're done. So
Yeah,
definitely a
that had to be a
transition
weird
period.
transition.
Yeah, it is. It's your whole identity, and now
It's
it's like,
almost like
well,
you're sad for a while.
yeah, oh, for sure, for
Like
sure.
maybe even
It's
depressed. I don't know. I'm a very emotional person, so I know something. If I were to endured what you endured at the end, I would have been sad for a
Yeah,
while.
it is. And I don't think a lot of athletes talk about that enough, but it's just a transition period, and you got to find something that can fill that competitive drive, and then fill that just camaraderie that you felt with a group of people that you got to know really well. So for me, it was coaching, and thankfully, I think I only went 1 or 2 years after college before I got into coaching.
Gotcha. Um, so before we switch to some Indiana basketball, um, top five either Michigan players or players you played against at your time in Michigan.
Top five. Jamal has to be number one. I mean, I had to guard him every day in
Uh,
practice.
right.
He was really good. I remember AJ Guyton for IU was a quick guard that played for him. When I was a freshman, he spun me around in a circle in the lane trying to guard him.
Nice.
Do you remember Devin Harris from Wisconsin? Do you
Gotcha.
remember him? Do you remember
Devin
Devin Harris?
Harris.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was a point guard for Wisconsin.
he got drafted by the Mavs, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. He was one of those other guys where I told you, like, at different level could create his own shot whenever he wanted.
Yes.
Uh, he was one of those that could do that. So he
Gotcha.
was really good. Um, and I remember playing Wisconsin. It was like they would just set screen after screen after screen, and then if they missed a shot, Harris would shoot one at the end of the shot clock with like 2 seconds left. They'd get a rebound, and they just do it all over again.
Was it Dick
So
Bennett or Bo Ryan at that time?
it was Dick Bennett at that time.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it was just like they'd pass the ball around, and the end of the shot clock, Devin Harris would create his own shot, and then they'd do it all over again. So he was really fun to play against. So that's what how many is that?
Three.
Three. Okay. Um, Jason Williams, that whole Duke roster, Jason Williams, Mike Dunleavy, Carlos
Oh,
Boozer. I mean,
geez.
those guys stop it off. So
Right.
to play against those,
Shane
yeah,
Battier was on that team, I think.
yeah, Shane Battier was too. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
so we'll only do one Duke player.
yeah, right. All
One
right.
Duke player.
So that leaves me with one more. Let's think of who else we played. You know what? I got to give credit where credit's due. Mateen Cleaves was just he was the guy you would watch and you'd want him. I mean, obviously, we had our rivalry, but he was a teammate you want. I mean,
Hey,
he was
respect.
like he got his guys together. They believed in him. He was a really good leader, and that's hard to teach.
Gotcha. It's funny you bring up my team Cleveland. I was just at a high school basketball game. Kalamazoo. I was at Kalamazoo Loring North watching East Lansing, and
Right.
sitting behind me was Andre Hudson. His son
Oh,
was
okay.
on the East Lansing team. So
Yeah.
yeah, that brings you talk about my team Cleves. I think
Yeah.
about
Oh,
that.
he was a heck
But
of a
yeah,
player too, man.
game respects game. That's all I got to say. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So let's transition.
All
We're gonna
right.
get some Indiana basketball. We're from Michigan. We feel like this is the Mecca. We got Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Muskegon, Grand Rapids. But I want to know insight about Indiana high school basketball. Why is that one of the Meccas? Why is it a cultural something that's in the culture there? Give me what you got.
Yeah, you're just born into it, really. I mean, some of the earliest memories I have of dribbling a basketball, goals everywhere in Indiana, especially growing up in the '80s. I mean, you couldn't drive past a house that didn't have a hoop attached to the garage or somewhere. So it's just in our blood. You've got the movie Hoosiers, obviously.
R.I.P. Hackman.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
that's right. And IU and Purdue basketball just all over television. And then the high school. When I was in high school, or my first couple of years and before, Indiana had a great, what I consider uh, the best tournament for high school basketball teams. It was single class, so
Single
you just
class
single
people.
class basketball. So
Ain't
you
no
had
A,
one
B,
state
C,
champion.
D.
That's right.
One class.
That's right. Now that changed my junior year of high school, but we won a state championship my senior year. I'm sure we'll get to that. But my freshman year, we went to semi-state. We went there in single class, and I mean, I can compare those two experiences all day. I mean, they're very similar. Just the fact that you're playing the biggest and the best, and you're going toe to toe with them in a single class was I always thought was neat. So
Yeah, it's definitely not conventional like with other tournaments are.
right,
A
yeah,
lot of tournaments are now.
yeah,
So like I said, yeah, I don't know a lot about Indiana basketball. I have relatives that live in Fort Wayne, so
mm,
I understand a little bit of what's going on in Fort Wayne. The
yeah,
ski field house stuff like
yeah.
that. But my education of or at least the first person I can remember out of Indiana high school was Damon
Yeah,
Bailey.
that's
Damon
for sure.
Bailey,
And
like
yeah,
I can remember like literally getting my Sports Illustrated for kid, and he was on the cover. I'm like, sweet.
Yes, that's the one that comes to mind too. You just especially when we grew up, is definitely Damon Bailey. But living here, you learn about Oscar Robinson's the guy who started it all here. I mean, one of the greatest players ever. He won 2 state championships, but that was in the '50s before our time.
Oh,
So I think him. Then you think about Damon Bailey, and then uh, Larry Bird was before our time, but he put up some legendary numbers in high school: 30 points a game, 20 rebounds a game. So those three are the main three you think about when you think about Indiana high
so
school basketball.
Larry's from what, the southwest side of it?
Yeah, French
One,
Lick area.
where's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
where's the where's the hot spot? What corridor is the hot spot?
You
Indy.
know, Indy, downtown Indy. There's a lot of great competition, and we're kind of rural Indy, where I coach at Mooresville High School. Um, but you've got schools like Lawrence North, who's still in the tournament right now. They're always really good downtown team. Um,
Yeah.
then you've got the Catholic schools who can get good athletes to come there, like Cathedral. Um, but that's the hotbed. That's where everybody is downtown, and you got to every game is tough when you're playing in
You
Indy.
now you say you coach at Mooresville,
Yes.
it's rural. Do you
Yep.
ever get games inside the city?
Yeah, we're 15 minutes away from Indianapolis, so um, we play a few games. We played Westfield this year. They're on the north side of
We're on the
Indy.
north side on 31. They're
Yeah,
huge.
they're
They got
huge.
schools
Yeah,
building there.
there's I think there's 3 or 4 thousand kids somewhere
Looked
in
like a
between
college
there.
campus.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think there's about 1,400 kids at Mooresville. So we played them on a Thursday night, and I think we ended up losing by 3. So we gave them a good ball game, but they were a top 5 school in the state.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the list can go on and on about players. In the Indiana, the lineage of Indiana, great
Hmm.
players that come out of Indiana. But tell me some that were high school players during your time when you played high
Oh
school
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
you played against. Now I see
Well,
Jason Gardner was from that area.
yes, Jason Gardner was on my AAU
Chris
team.
Hill was in that
We
area.
who was?
Chris Hill
Yes,
went to
Chris
Michigan
Hill. Yep,
State,
yep, yep, yep. He was in the area,
but I think he
but
was
he was
younger
he was
than
a little
you.
younger than me. Jason Gardner was in my grade. He was a phenomenal athlete. I always said if he would have been a running back in football, he would have been in the NFL. He reminded me of Barry Sanders, just low to the ground and quick.
Nice.
But he obviously had a great career in Arizona with his jersey retired. He's got a son playing in Fishers, Indiana. They're on an under, they're probably the best team in the
I did a
state. They're
basketball
undefeated
court
this year.
fishing.
Okay, you
I
did.
did a Michigan basketball court
Yeah,
fishing.
I think I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I
That's
connected
probably
with
where
him.
we started
I saw
talking.
you comment on it. I'm like, I know this
Yeah,
dude. He went to Michigan.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
and that's how
So
this actually really that's how this ended up tonight. Because that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
started.
That's exactly right.
But interesting. Anybody else that
Well, when I was like a freshman and sophomore, the one I watched in the summer, just seeing the older kids play in AAU was Luke Recker. I don't know if that
oh
name
man,
rings a
Luke
bell.
Rucker.
Yeah, he was that white dude that could just dunk and shoot. And he could really do it all offensively, and so I thought he was a really good player, and he was on uh, no his AAU team was Spiece Gym Rat, so and my AAU team kind of broke off from them, so we would have practices in similar areas and scrimmage and play against them, and so he was really good. Another one from Indiana that played with me was Zach Randolph in uh, AAU in the summertime, and he was another guy that we talk about that's just on a different level. You can kind of tell right away. The funny thing about Zach was I had a really, believe it or not, tough old school AAU coach, and Zach would just never make it to practice on time, and he didn't. My coach didn't care. He didn't care. He would just Zach would come off the bench and every AAU game and end up scoring 30 and getting 20 rebounds, and he didn't
Yeah.
mind. So he was like, "Sorry, I can't make it on time. So I guess I'll just come off the bench and do the same thing." So but he was different. Like just his touch, like to see a big guy that had so much um, grace around the basket with his footwork and his touch was just different than what you saw usually at that age.
Gotcha. So you were a player in the Indiana high school basketball system. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
You're runner up, I believe, for Mr. Basketball, Indiana.
Yes, yeah, to
Um,
Jason, yeah,
so that was your junior year,
senior year.
senior year, runner
Yep.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, Tell us about your senior year. How'd it go?
Well, it was a great year for us. So my junior year, they split basketball into classes. So we went from no class system to four classes. So my school was in the 3A class. We were one of the bigger 3A classes. But the crazy thing about the system when they moved it to classes, 4A was the biggest down to 1A. The 3A schools had the Catholic schools who weren't large in size but could recruit, good players to come play there. And we had Cathedral was a Catholic school. We had Chittard. We had one other one, Brebeuf, Jesuit were the three Catholic schools, and they were all in the sectional we were in. So my first year, my junior year, the first year of class basketball, we played Cathedral um, in the sectional final, and they beat us and they won the state. And then Rylan Hangy was a guy that played um, for Cathedral, and he ended up playing basketball at Butler, but he was an even better tight end. So he had a great career at Butler as a basketball player. And then I think he tried to play in the NFL. Not sure if that worked out, but so they won state my junior year. Then my senior year, we went 26-2 and won state in 3A. So that was our sectional again. And then the year after I graduate, the Brebeuf Jesuit, the Catholic school, came out of our sectional and won. So, we switched from single class to class basketball to a lower division, but the sectional was, I mean, it was tougher than it ever was in single class.
Ali.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So back to my junior year, we beat Cathedral in the championship that year, so we got a little revenge. Um, and then, it was interesting. We were ranked number one going into the tournament. So it was just a different feel altogether. I think we had seven seniors and probably five that played a lot. So it was a senior team and kids that had played together since they were in second grade and uh, ran through the tournament. Our the toughest games were in the sectional. We played Brebeuf in the semifinal, Cathedral in the final. And then we had an interesting one in semi-state with a team that tried to hold the basketball, Gibson Southern. They won a game the year before. I think the score was 8-6. Because the other thing about Indiana high school basketball is there's no shot clock. Uh, so we were a team that averaged 75 points a game, and my high school coach was going crazy during that game when they were trying to hold the basketball.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
That drive me nuts.
Yeah, it was. Well, the funny thing is watching it back though. They brought this Gibson Southern, and they're another rural town, and they brought the biggest crowd ever. And the longer they passed the ball, the louder the crowd would just clap and start going crazy. And the more frustrated the other team would get, the louder they'd get. And this team would just, I mean, they didn't just hold it; they moved it. And credit to them,
Like
they didn't turn the ball over, but they would not shoot unless they got a wide open layup or a wide open three. That's all they shot.
that, this sounds like when I used to play tackle ball or actually or any kind of football game. My friends would get mad because all I do was run the ball, but I get
Yeah,
so good to run the ball that I just kill the clock and get
right.
down after
And
every four plays, and
getting
they
getting
just
up
get
getting the win.
annoyed.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, but wow. Thanks for your insight on Indiana basketball. The last thing I want to talk about is your head coaching experience or
Okay,
your basketball team. Um,
right.
Now you've transitioned to a varsity basketball coach,
Mm-hmm.
rural Indiana, outskirts of Indianapolis, Mooresville. How is it? How is it coaching in today's climate?
Well, we had a good year this year, and the thing that I said is the biggest difference when I was talking to my old varsity head coach at Plainfield, where I grew up and played. That's where I coached the last 11 years with him before I took this head coaching job at Mooresville. And I told him this year, I said, it's different when you're an assistant coach. You can enjoy the wins and you can kind of leave the losses behind. But when you move that one seat over and you become the head coach, the wins are more of a relief. I mean, especially it's a 4A school I coach at, so uh, we're about 1,400 kids, and some games will play 4,000 kids. So every win's a relief, and the losses stay with you. That's the biggest difference. Not to mention just the million other things you don't think about being a head basketball coach that you have to take care of outside of basketball. When you're an assistant
Right,
coach,
you're building
you're
a
just
program.
coaching. Yeah,
You're building
exactly.
a program, so that means
Yeah.
you got to have your hands immersed or touching the youth, the middle school, all the way up,
Yep.
because you're setting a culture, right? You're trying to set a
Yes.
culture. Um,
Yes. Yes. And the
oh,
quicker you can get to that, the better. I played on a lot of different teams growing up playing basketball, playing as much as I did, and culture beats talent. I mean, you can have a talented team, but if they don't mesh and they don't get along and they're not believing in something together, you don't get the same results.
Gotcha. Now this year you had some success. You said you won your divisional, I believe,
Yeah, we won our sectional.
or
So
sectionals.
yeah, the
Okay.
first the first round is the sectionals, and I had six seniors this year. Is my first year there, so I had some kids that could play a little bit. Had been through the fire before, and they did a nice job of buying in. Um, they did everything I asked them to, and we had a couple of rough patches during the season where you're still. I got hired late, so I was in there uh, after the school year had started. So I didn't, usually when you lose a coach, you at least get the summer to work with them. I'm in there in the fall, so and they're learning all new systems, they're learning all new defenses. So a lot of it was thinking at the start of the season, as opposed to just being able to go out and react. But as the season go, we just kept getting a little better and better, and by the end of the year, put together a couple
You can
good
see them
games,
buying
and
in.
yeah, I could see them buying in. Even when we lose, they play hard and they try to do the right thing. So I knew good things would happen.
Gotcha. So what does the team look like for next year?
Well, it was our first sectional there in
You got a
27
bit of big
years.
success. They
Yes,
got to
yes,
taste the success.
but it is losing a lot of seniors. So replacing them will be tough. It'll be again about building the culture next year, continuing to build upon what we started this year, and just developing players. In high school is a little different. You don't get to go out and recruit. You get the kids that come there. So
Right.
you have to be really big bought in on player development and getting
Now,
kids in the gym.
now Michigan, we are a school of choice.
Okay.
So really, if I want to send my kids to Muskegon, if they will allow me to, I can do that.
Right.
Um,
Well, it's quickly divulging into that here in Indiana too.
is
I
it?
mean, it's moving that way. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There's a lot even where I'm at right now. There's a lot of kids that go to different schools, live in town, but they go to
Right.
schools um
Right.
for whatever reason.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Well, Gavin, we took enough of your time. I
Okay.
appreciate your time. Um, I'd like to have you back at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you again. Go Blue. And let's touch base sometime in the summer. Anything you want to say to the viewers?
No,
Any
thanks for having me. I like I've known Sam for a while now. We've kept in contact through Facebook and
Oh,
other things.
geez.
Just a huge Michigan supporter. So
Yes, sir.
good. So thank you for having me on the show. And
Hey,
I've
no
got some more
problem.
some more
Thank
Jamal stories I can tell you guys next time I'm on.
you. Thank you. Your insight. I've always wanted to know more about your time, the time at Michigan there, and you
Yeah.
gave me great insight. I can never say thank you enough. Go
No
Blue,
problem, buddy.
success. And take care.